Thank you for tuning in to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast, a no judgment zone podcast that covers lifestyle, entertainment, news, and sports. Even though KC doesn't watch sports, but these are minor details. By the way, he reads tarot cards too. Yes, I really mean it. He reads tarot cards too. And now, the host you've tuned in for, KC Phoenix.
Welcome back to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast. I am your host, KC Phoenix. I'm glad you made it. I'm glad I made it. All right. So, I'm waking up now. If you watch my other episode or listen to my other episode earlier, you could tell that I was still waking up. I've done 2 episodes so far this morning. I did the lucky numbers and I did my daily thought. So now I'm doing the dog story. I had mentioned the dog story yesterday. And yeah. This story, it forced me to do some research because all of my stories that I do, my news stories, are 100% true. So that's the thing. So when you hear wacky stuff, I'm like, no, this is an actual story. It really is. And when this particular story, I did read it because most of the time, I'd probably say 75% of the time, I just read the headline and then I read the story for the first time along while you're listening to me read it and comment on it. This time, I was like, okay, let me digest all this information. So I digested all the information and then I had more questions. So I have 2 news articles for you. So just a heads up on that. I have 2 news articles as related to the dog. But before I go any further, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Let's get into this. I have to start adjusting my laptop here because I'm moving my visual to my left and I have the story on my right as I'm reading. Okay, so I came across this article. The title of the article is "World's Richest Dog is Selling His $32 Million Miami Villa." And I'm like, wait, what? First of all, I'm not really an animal lover. For my longtime listeners, you already know that. Animals, not really my thing. Used to like cats a lot, but now it's not even. I guess it's just the cleaning up after them that just... yeah, but I digress. So here we go. I'm about to read the article. Filthy rich millionaires selling their ludicrously expensive mansions to each other isn't really newsworthy, except in this case, because the millionaire isn't a human being. Meet Gunther the Sixth. The German Shepherd with an appropriately fancy name is the world's richest dog, and he's about to get a whole lot richer. The affluent pooch is planning to sell his fabulous villa in Miami, Florida, and yes, it's his villa. He owns it. Gunther's glorious mansion is up for grabs for $31.75 million. Even for a dog worth $500 million, that's a good bit of extra cash. Gunther the Sixth announced his plans to sell the house during an early November meeting with his real estate agents. I promise you, I'm reading this word for word. I'm not making this up. At the meeting, he was appropriately dressed in faux diamond dog collar, reported Cron.com. If he's got the money, he might as well flaunt it, we suppose. The doggie's villa isn't just any house either. It's located on a 1.17 acre plot that has a lush, immaculately landscaped yard, 100 feet of water frontage, and amazing views over Biscayne Bay, which Biscayne Bay is beautiful. For those who don't know, for my new listeners, my old listeners already know, I used to live in Miami, Florida. I lived in South Beach and I lived in Coral Gables. So yeah, Miami is definitely gorgeous. I moved because when it rains, and it was too much rain. So, but I digress. Things don't get any less luxurious once you enter the mansion. It has 8,400 square feet of space divided between 9 bedrooms, 8.5 bathrooms, and we assume several living rooms. And above the fireplace is one of the living rooms hangs a portrait of Gunther IV, the current owner's grandfather, in a gilded frame. As if that wasn't enough, the villa is also significant in pop culture history. It used to belong to Madonna. Gunther VI's grandfather purchased the home from the Material Girl some 2 decades ago. 2 decades ago for $7.5 million. That means the millionaire dog will be turning a good bit of profit on the villa once he finds a buyer. Ruthie Asseline, the real estate agent managing the villa's listing, says Gunther VI has made the house his own, though. He lives in Madonna's former master bedroom. He literally sleeps overlooking the most magnificent view in an Italian custom bed in the former bedroom of the greatest pop star in the world, she said. Okay. Side note on this. Oh, how can I put this? You know what? I'm not going to say anything. I was about to. But my episode, my daily thought when I was talking about restraint, go listen to that. Luxurious as it is, Gunther VI doesn't really need the Miami villa. After all, it's not like he gets to spend that much time in it. To begin with, this isn't even his actual home. Gunther VI's primary residence is in Tuscany, Italy, where he also houses his actual solid gold collar. Not that he's all that often staying there either. Like a true jet setter, Gunther VI spends much of his time traveling around the world in his private jet. He makes frequent visits to the hippest and most fashionable destinations on the planet. Florence, Milan, and the Bahamas are just a few of his favorite vacationing spots. When he's out and about, Gunther VI always dines in style. You won't find any kibble within a 5-mile radius of his bowl. He has his own chef who cooks his meals using only the finest meats, vegetables, and rice. And like a true connoisseur of the finer things, Gunther VI occasionally partakes in some caviar or the 1.1 million white truffle he bought at an auction. Now, rich as he is, Gunther VI isn't actually a self-made man. He inherited his entire fortune, including multiple yachts and collector cars, from his aforementioned grandfather. And even he didn't work for the money. The dog's family riches originate from the multi-million-dollar inheritance Gunther III got from his late owner, the German Countess Carlotta Lebenstein, in 1992. Since then, the Gunther family estate has been managed by a whole team of financial advisors, handlers, maids, and butlers. One of them is 52-year-old Carla Richtelli, one of Gunther VI's main caretakers. What, you think a dog this rich would have just one servant? Richtelli met the Gunther family nearly 30 years ago. She felt a connection with the dogs and joined the team of caretakers. According to her, Gunther hasn't let his fortune spoil him. He's not aggressive at all. He's very good with other animals, she said of her boss. Richtelli also acts as Gunther VI's contact to the board managing his family fund. The The group is active in the real estate market and also owns several sports teams. However, Rich Telly has been able to ensure that Gunther uses his money for charitable purposes as well. A few years back, for example, she helped found Gunther Rescue. The benefit society helps animals who aren't as well off as Gunther the Sixth and need help. Good on you, Gunther, for giving something back to the society. Also, a truck started up near the window, so if you hear that in the background, that's what that is. Okay, now, I've read through this article. The thing that was really, really in my mind, because you know me, I like to analyze stuff, and I start just picking things apart. And I was like, okay, this dog, which I've heard of this before. Comedians have even cracked jokes about this, how someone dies and then they'll leave all of their money to their animal. But my thing was, okay, that's a lot of money. I could understand if it was maybe 5 million or even 10 million. I get it. But $500 million left to an animal, it wasn't making sense to me. So I was like, I want to know the backstory, is what I want to know. Did she really hate her family that much, where she was like, you know what, I'm not giving anybody, I don't care, distant cousin, distant aunt, distant uncle, you know, kids, nephews, nieces, godchildren, I'm not giving anyone the money. I'm giving the money to the dog. I'm giving this $500 million estate to the dog. So I was like, let me do some research. So I Googled her name and I did not find anything on her. And I was like, that's weird. Why am I not finding anything on this countess or whatever? And then, as I was going through, I'm like, article after article after article, I was searching and stuff, attempting to find who this countess is, Lebenstein or Stein, whatever you want to call it. I come across an old article from the Tampa Bay Times. Now, mind you, this article, hold on, I got to go back to it. This article that I just read you, obviously this is going on now in 2021, about to be 2022. This article from the Tampa Bay Times is from 2005. So this is interesting. It says, the title of the article is Rich Dog's Tail Just Doesn't Wag True. Mind you, this is 2005. Tampa Bay Times. It says, but the corporation behind it still make an offer. Okay, what is going on with all these typos? But the corporation behind it might still make an offer on Sylvester Stallone's Miami estate. As it turns out, Gunther might be nothing more than a hound dog. For the time being, the gist of the story about the millionaire German Shepherd apparently stands. An overseas company with beaucoup bucks wants to buy Sylvester Stallone's estate. But is the offer coming from the world's richest dog, a canine that owes his fortune to an affectionate German countess who died in 1992? Maybe not. If you want to write it's a joke, you can write that. Maurizio Mian, a spokesman for the attempted purchase, said Tuesday, I won't do anything. In the end, it might rank among Miami's all-time best-worst publicity stunts. A news release distributed Monday to South Florida news outlet got the ball rolling. The claim, Gunther, a German Shepherd that lives a transcontinental lifestyle with riches bequeathed by the late Countess Carlotta Lebenstein, or Stein, is eyeing the Stallone mansion. Behind the pooch's offer are the human administrators of Gunther Corp., those unnamed individuals who reportedly oversee the Bahamian company born from the inheritance, are eager to compete with Orient Express Hotels, for purchase of Stallone's property. But wait a minute, Mr. Mayan, can you explain the story published in the Italian press? It ran in spring of 1995. Countess Carletta Lebenstein never existed, and therefore never left any money in her will to the dog Gunther. The story that attributed to the German Shepherd the juicy inheritance left by the extravagant German noblewoman was simply a hoax. It was just an invention to publicize the philosophy of the Gunther Group and the Gunther Foundation. Mian was quoted as saying in 1995, "Today, 5,000 miles away and 4 years later," Mian retracts that quote, saying he was only trying to throw off an Italian press that was unfair to the Gunther Foundation, now the Gunther Corp. Gunther's new tale has its own set of unconfirmed questions. Was there ever a countess? Who is behind the Gunther Corp? Can a dog have millions? Is Gunther really the wealthiest dog in the world? Gunther Corp provided Coral Gables publicist, shout out to Coral Gables, publicist Jack Wolf with a page copied from the Italian edition of the Guinness Book of Records. It calls Gunther the richest dog, but a Guinness spokeswoman said Tuesday that wasn't quite right. They've looked into it, said Kim Strom about the European Guinness staff, but they don't have enough to go on right now. Their decision is not a Guinness record. And what about the musical group formed years ago as the Gunther Group, now reconfigured as heads of the corporation and ready to make a Miami-based comeback, complete with a barking Gunther? Mian, who identified himself as a lawyer who is also acting as a research scientist for the Gunther Corporation, won't name them and set a date for their comeback. Despite the turn in Gunther's real estate bid, agents sponsoring the offer said it's legitimate. Alan Jacobson, co-owner of the Wimbish Right Way Realty, said he reviewed what he considers to be a legitimate letter from a bank signed by employees of the bank. According to information provided, they do indeed have the funds to purchase the property, said Jacobson, who is working with Stallone on the sale of his home. Supposedly, they are coming in with a contract sometime this week. Mian provided a vague description of Gunther Corp's business activities. He said the company, which in European news reports has been credited with sponsorship of sports teams and musical groups, is devoted to sports, science, and entertainment. And, of course, everything that gives the dog the high quality of life. All right. Let's unpack this right quick. I have a thought, and this is an intuition. This is just me going off of the information, off of these articles. I have a thought. I do believe that it was a publicity stunt. I do believe that there was some type of... Okay, thank you. That's awesome. Okay. When I hear things on how to explain it, I always say thank you. You know how somebody needs a spokesperson for something? That's what I believe happened. And I'm really believing it, especially since something just came to me and said they needed a spokesperson. In some estates, if you've seen the movie Brewster's Millions, and in Brewster's Millions, which is one of my favorite movies, by the way. Love, 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 love that movie. Because I love when he walks into the safe. When he walks into the safe, that is priceless. Good, good, good. But the movie overall is a great movie. But I digress. In Brewster's Millions, he is offered the chance to complete the task, and if he completes the task, he'll get his inheritance. But if he doesn't complete the task, the inheritance money, which was I think like $300 and something million, goes to the wealth management company who would continue to manage the funds as they see fit. They would manage the estate, is what would happen. So really, it wouldn't go to anyone because Brewster was his only living relative. So it was like, okay, where's the money going to go? It's going to go to the wealth management company if things don't work out. I believe, this is just my thoughts, I believe there was a client. The client did not give the money to anyone. Or maybe they didn't have a living relative or something of that nature. It's one of the two. I believe there was a client that passed away. The client didn't give the money to anyone. Or the corporation, they were amassing this wealth, all these wealth managers and building and doing all of this stuff, and they needed a spokesperson. So either a client passed away, they didn't leave the money to anyone, so the wealth managers took it over, and they needed a spokesperson. Or the wealth management company and all of these people, things were going well, and they wanted to really put things on the map, so they needed a spokesperson. What I feel this boils down to is they needed a spokesperson decades ago, which that spokesperson was Gunther. And ever since then, the spokesperson, which is the German Shepherd, and I think they said it started with Gunther the second, Gunther the fourth, whatever. Whichever Gunther it was at the beginning of the article. That's been their shtick ever since then. Sort of like with the Gecko and Geico type thing. You know? Obviously, if you see a gecko, you think of Geico. Well, now, if with selling properties and doing this and publicity, you'll think of Gunther. That's kind of what I'm picking up on this. So, yeah, it's cute, I guess. I mean, it got my attention. Obviously, I'm talking about it. So, yeah. But if you were to just stop at the first article, you'd be like, oh my goodness, this countess left this dog all this money, blah, 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 blah. But something was telling me, okay, there's got to be more to the story. I'm being nosy. And then I stumbled across this old article from the Tampa Bay Times. Aren't you glad that you listen to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast? Because now when somebody brings it up, you can be like, well, did you know that this has happened before with Sylvester Stallone's home? So, anyways, yeah, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Until next time, be blessed.